If you rebuke any of them, it would make what I said a lie. That could instill the belief that everything I say from here on is a lie. If everyone begins to shrink away like that, it will make asking for their opinions in the future more difficult. The moment you set foot outside this room, erase that proposal from your brain, Albedo. Yes, my lord, I shall do exactly as you say. Good. That's the way. Aints was grateful to have a body that didn't sweat, otherwise he would have been drenched. But despite his wonderful mind and body, he hadn't completely recovered from the pain of having his idea called trashy. Lord Aints, this is just a suggestion, but perhaps from now on, I should screen them for you so no ideas this bad get through. No, that won't be necessary. Then it would be you choosing them and me simply approving. If we did that, there wouldn't be any point in us having this meeting. Oh, you're right, Lord Aints. This is our joint task, after all. Albedo's wings flapped. As if in sync, the 8-edged assassins plastered to the ceiling all flinched. Okay, looks like you understand, so let us move on to the next item. Personally, he had no idea what that was all about, but it didn't seem like this was the right time to ask. He also didn't have the confidence to return to the topic later. So up next we have, as he was about to read it, there was a knock on the door. The two of them looked to Fifth. She bobbed her head and identified the visitor. From beyond the door, he could hear one energetic child's voice and another faint voice lacking confidence. Pretty sure this is the first time those two have come here at this hour. Is there some kind of trouble? If so, he's lucky they came while Albedo is here. He knew who it was, so he could have given the permission to enter immediately. But if he allowed them to enter before Fifth reported their names, he would be robbing her of the task she was so thrilled to be performing. Going over workers' heads would rob them of their motivation. It was important for those at the top to have that kind of consideration. You must think the same way, Jerkniv. You have maids doing all sorts of things for you too. Aints spoke in his head, thinking of the person he was observing as a model king. He wanted to be able to discuss their struggles as kings together someday. Lord Aints, it's Mistress Aura and Master Mare. Once Fifth had fulfilled her duty, Aints granted the pair's entry. The door opened and two little dark elves came in. They were beaming, and it didn't seem like anything had gone wrong, so Aints was relieved. Good morning, Lord Aints. Gigi, good morning, Lord Aints. Yes, morning, you too. I am glad to see you both looking well. After they both exchanged greetings with Albedo, Aura walked around the desk and stood beside Aints. Having come extremely close to him, she opened her arms in a V shape. In response to Aints' confusion, she emitted a sound that wasn't a word and lifted her arms again. Then she looked at him expectantly, her eyes sparkling, and hopped up and down slightly. When he finally realized what she wanted, he scooted his chair back, put his hands on her sides, and picked her up. What are you doing, Lord Aints? Albedo emitted a dry shriek, but he paid her no mind as he flipped Aura around 180 degrees and sat her down on his right femur. Without a soft thigh of his own, all he could offer her was hard bone, so he had her sit sideways in an attempt to mitigate her discomfort. Heh heh heh, Aura laughed, half bashfully, half happily, and smiled up at Aints. Then Aints shifted his gaze and waved over Mare, who was standing there fidgeting. Mare approached timidly, but Aints lifted him up and put him on his left femur all the same. Lord Aints. Me too. Aints had just been thinking maybe he should prepare a cushion for next time when Albedo hesitantly approached him. But seating a grown woman on his thigh bone was plain embarrassing. No, sorry, can do it. But both of them get Albedo, they raise still children. You ray an adult, Aaron T.U. For just a moment he felt like he saw a lightning bolt embodying her shock strike behind her. He did feel like he had been slightly mean, but embarrassing things were embarrassing. Wasn't he asking for that a form of sexual harassment? And what in the world is it, you two? Did something happen? The fortress they were building in the Tove woodlands, the supply stockpile, the fake Nazarick was complete. The next tasks he had assigned to Aura were strengthening its defenses and concealing it. Originally, the plan had been to flee there if any enemy appeared to save the real Nazarick from being discovered. But since he had already given the location of the Great Tomb to Jerkniv, they were prioritizing the forest compound as a stockpile and evacuation site. He also ordered Mare to build a subterranean tomb on the outskirts of Rantel. There were no immediate plans to use it, but he didn't want any power to go to waste. When employing people, personnel expenses were incurred, but with golems and the undead, he didn't have to worry about that, and Mare could create simple stone and other materials with his magic. Incidentally, The other guardians had also been assigned jobs. Sholtia was guarding Nazarick and helping with transportation using gate. Cocytus was in charge of overseeing the Lizardman village and the whole lake area, and Demiurge was on business in the Sacred Kingdom. Thus, at this time, all the guardians stationed in Rantel were present before Aints. So what had the siblings come for if they already had jobs? Aura gave a simple answer to Aints' question. "We missed you, Lord Aints." The innocence of the exclamation made him crack a smile. "See, I am happy to see you too," Aints pet Aura's head. His hand must have felt good because Aura snuggled against it. It was like he was petting a cute little puppy. "You are, Lord Aints, what were you doing? I hope we aren't annoying you." "That is not at all. How would seeing you ever be annoying?" Aints said to Mare before turning to Albedo. "Sorry, Albedo, you were about to say something but I interrupted." "Oh right, of course I am never annoyed to see you either." Why yes, her face was bright red, but she put on a dignified expression. Then she said, "Lord Aints, what?" He was about to ask, but instead his eyes grew large. Ogia Aints doubted his ears. What is she saying? Proving that he hadn't misheard her, she bashfully said it again. "Ogia, she's definitely imitating a baby. If it was anything else I'd be scared. Why is she doing that? Is it stress because I piled too much work on her? Oh. It could be something to do with Negredo." We had just been talking about releasing her from disciplinary confinement. Aints was feeling confused despite being undead. Mare began to squirm. I am okay, so if Albedo wants to, those words were a revelation to Aints. Basically, in response to him saying that these two were kids and she was an adult, she was putting on an act to say she was a kid too. But why an infant? And he still didn't think having Albedo in his lap was ideal. Then again, she had dared to do something so embarrassing in order to make her appeal. As the one at the top and as a man, he couldn't ignore that. And Albedo was actually, like Aura and Mare, being similar to a child. It wasn't right to pick favorites. "Sorry, Mare." Having made up his mind, he let Mare down and waved Albedo over. "Come, Albedo." "Yes, my lord." Her embarrassed expression from a moment ago had vanished. She seemed to be bursting with as much anticipation as a puppy about to be taken on a walk when she appeared beside him instantaneously. For Aints, still seated, trying to lift Albedo by putting his hands under her arms was more than a little difficult. "Sorry, could you sit down from where you are?" "Yes, my lord." "Understood." Having traded places with Mare and sitting on Aints' left femur facing away from him, she nestled in. The first thing Aints felt was softness. She had a mature softness to her body that the children didn't have. Then came a warmth that seemed to seep into him, making him restless. Wow, she is soft. She was a level 100 warrior, but it was hard to tell where she was keeping her muscle. To put it unkindly, she was as soft as a mollusk. She quietly giggled. Tee-hee-hee-hee-hee. The fragrance wafting up from Albedo's hair tickled Aints' nostrils. That moment a spark seemed to flash through the brain he supposedly didn't have. "I've smelled this somewhere before." Was it Albedo's clothes? No, was it perfume? Aints had definitely smelled Albedo's relaxing scent before, but he couldn't manage to find the right memory. "Albedo, are you wearing some sort of perfume?" "Yes, I am. Does it displease you?" "No, not at all. It smells nice." Albedo abruptly turned to look at him. Her eyes were open so wide, they scared him a little. "You think so, Lord Aints? If you like, you can smell me some more. For an hour or a whole day." "No, I don't think an hour is necessary." To tell the truth, though, he was ever so slightly interested. And if he smelled it more, perhaps he would recall the memory. "Well, will you let me smell just a bit?" Aints moved his nasal bones a little closer and inhaled Albedo's scent. Since he was closer than before, the somehow comforting fragrance was a bit clearer. Yes, he had definitely smelled it before, but he couldn't quite remember where. As he desperately followed the threads of his memories, he was interrupted by an icy voice. Lord Aints. For a second he didn't know who the speaker was, but then he realized it was Aura. When he nervously shifted his gaze, she had narrowed her eyes in disgust. Her lips jutted out slightly, her cheeks puffed and pouty. "You're being kind of creepy." Sorry, she's right. He cursed himself for being foolish enough to do something like that in front of a child. From a moral education standpoint, it was awful. At this rate, his old friends would call him out in the tone they'd use if they were angry at their little brother. "Oh, all right, both of you. Time to get off my legs. Albedo, let us continue the conversation we were having before." But they didn't move, neither of them budged. They seemed to be waiting to see who would go first. Sheesh. Aints picked Aura up and set her on the floor. He heard Albedo chuckle to herself. Tee hee hee. Aura was the first one to sit. You get down too, Albedo. But Aura was sitting there for 3 minutes and 41 seconds. I've only been here for 57 seconds. I humbly request that I should be allowed to stay for 3 more minutes. But Albedo, you spend more time with him. That's just how it goes. It's work. Oh, so it's just work. I am here because I wanted to see Lord Aints. NGH. Albedo's butt squirmed on Aints' thigh, and the two girls glared at each other. He knew why Albedo wanted to sit in his lap, but what was Aura's reason? Surely she didn't love him the way Albedo did. In the first place, he didn't remember doing anything that would be worthy of so much love, and it was too soon for a child like Aura to have romantic feelings. So then, having thought that far, Aints reached an answer. He understood. She wanted him for her own. It was possible she wanted a father figure. Aura and Mare had been created young. They were at an age where they should have had parents. So maybe she was trying to get what she was missing from Aints. He had been thinking that if there was a dark elf country, he wanted to go there to find the dark elf siblings some friends. But Satoru Suzuki had never yearned for a father figure, which was why he never noticed the possibility that Aura and Mare might. He wondered if the library had moral education books for kids. When they were merely data, it wasn't an issue, but now he needed something to make sure Aura and Mare had proper mental development. Yes, they needed to make dark elf friends. He would make that a higher priority. Speaking of which, Aura, there's something I wanted to ask you. What happened to those 3 elves I gave to you and Mare? You mean the ones who tramped into Nazarick with their dirty feet, but were pardoned because you were so compassionate? Aints nodded. He had given the slave elves, accompanying the workers he had summoned to Aura and Mare. Really, he didn't want to leave any uninvited trespassers alive, but they hadn't entered Nazarick by choice, and they weren't there to steal his treasures, so he figured it was okay to have mercy on them. He also thought that since they were elves, maybe they would have a good effect on Aura's and Mare's development. I see. We left them on our level for now. Left them? Yes. For some reason they bustle around trying to take care of us. It's sort of annoying. It's like Aura said. We can dress ourselves, but they still try to help. You need to get your act together, Mare. That's why they try to change your clothes for you. They don't do that to me, I see. So they try to take care of them, I guess they are acting sort of like my maids. I identify with your suffering, Mare. Still, it seems to have been worth saving those 3. But are former slaves bad for moral education? HRM, well, we spared them. Don't get angry and kill them. If they ray too much of a nuisance to you, tell me and I'll send them somewhere else. Understood, thank you. After Mare nodded, Ain't said, now then, and turned a cold gaze on Albedo. Albedo, it's about time for you to get down. I am sure it's been 3 minutes. She looked reluctant for the briefest of moments, but obeyed silently and got off his lap. By the way, what are you guys doing, Lord Aints? Oh, we ray going through the suggestions everyone in Nazarick had about making the country better. Do you two have any ideas? Anything at all? Aura's face brightened up. I have a great idea, Lord Aints. Oh ho, what is it, Aura? Let us hear it. Okay, I think boys should dress as girls and girls should dress as boys. Bubbling teapot. Aints howled his old friend's name internally. For a moment, he hallucinated a pink slime apologizing sorry in a cute voice that didn't match its appearance at all. I see. Lady Bubbling Teapot's idea, huh? Certainly it's not a bad idea. Implementing the will of the 41 supreme beings in this country would be good. Aints wanted to say that aloud, but he couldn't anyhow. He needed to veto the idea. But there was a problem. These two dressed the way they did out of obedience to Bubbling Teapot. If he was going to reject Aura's idea, he needed a reason why it was fine for them but not everyone else. He couldn't think of anything on the spot. Lord Aints. Shall I begin the process of carrying out Aura's proposal? Why are you in such a hurry? There's no time left. If he allowed this, it was as good as announcing that the nation of darkness is a country with deviant tastes. They couldn't have that. The only one who would be happy is Bubbling Teapot. No, even if she were here, he bet she'd never visit their country. There are a few people who, if they heard the NPCs they created had attained consciousness, would actively avoid them, never mind coming to visit. Bubbling Teapot is definitely one of them. Yameko and Ankoro Mokai would probably come, though. They ray all women, so why is she so different? Thinking back on her fondly, Ain't stood and gazed out the window. It wasn't as if there was any meaning in that gesture. He was just buying time. Once he had a way to start figured out, he spun around and looked at all three of them. I definitely reject that idea. But why? Of course you would ask that. But giving all men without a partner on Christmas a mask would be a much better law than that one. He exhaled deeply. It didn't mean anything, of course. He was simply buying more time. There are multiple reasons. Do you need me to explain each one, Albedo? Yes, please. He had intended the question for Albedo, but Mare intercepted. He is normally so docile, so why is he being so vicious now? Aints thought to himself sadly. He was sure Albedo would have said, no, that's all right. I'll explain to these two. But under these circumstances, he had to explain it himself. All right, I'll explain. I wonder where I should start. Aints brought a hand to his chin and hummed. It goes without saying, but that was also to buy time. After thinking so frantically, he had an idea. First, you probably thought that since you two are dressed like that, everyone else should too, right? That's what Bubbling Teapot would want. But that's not true. Yes, you guys are special. We race special, exactly. Bubbling Teapot has you two dressed that way because you race so special to her. Do you want to make everyone special like that? Of course not. Surprisingly, the one who shouted was Mare. I would hate that. I don't want a ton of strangers to have what Lady Bubbling Teapot gave especially to my sister and me. Why yeah, that's what I think. You get it right, Aura? Yes. It was stupid of me to not consider Lady Bubbling Teapot's feelings. Woo. Ain't suppressed his urge to do a fist pump. Other than that, Aura and Mare already agreed. Letting the conversation end on a vague note was probably fine. There was just one thing he was worried about. Albedo murmured, so he rejected a few, and Aints turned to look at her. With her uncommon intellect, she might have been thinking about something beyond what he could follow. He was worried she might find it weird if he ended the conversation there. When their eyes met, she cocked her head and smiled. Aints averted his gaze, unsure what her reaction meant. An elder Lick happened to be standing where his eyes ended up. His gaze was drawn naturally to the documents in its hand. Ah, so you were thinking about that too, Lord Aints? That was the one you looked at the longest. I think it would be fine to discuss it with these two if you like. The sudden remark made him shift his eyes back to her. So you were thinking about it too, Albedo? Yes, I was sure you would bring it up. You must have thought it would be all right to talk about it with them, right? I'd expect nothing less from you, Albedo. Even if I don't say a word, you know what's on my mind. Nonsense, my lord. She bowed with a smile and Aura puffed her cheeks up crankily. But more importantly, I hadn't considered what you said about Lady Bubbling Teapot's feelings either. Such is the brilliance of our creators, the supreme beings. Your points of view are simply beyond me. Oh, don't say that, Albedo. I think someday your abilities will surpass even my own. She was already way better than him. Aints wondered, embarrassed, what he was even saying, but Albedo nodded with a face full of determination. Yes, my lord, someday for sure. Were there any other reasons? Ah, yes, Aura. Albedo, tell the other two. Make your explanation simple so even children can understand. Yes, make it easy to grasp. Having told her that, he turned once again to the window as if to say, I am not talking, you are. But every bit of his attention was focused on his hearing. He didn't want to miss a word. Albedo said. Yes. Actually, I was thinking of suggesting it to Lord Aints later. But there is a bit of a problem. What? Who's causing trouble? Should we go kill them quick? No, it's not like that. Actually, we've learned that there will be a supply shortage in the near future. If we told everyone to swap clothing now, it would be a headache. Everyone would need to exchange used clothes. What? Really? Aints couldn't he actually ask? He frantically recalled what was written in the documents. There was something about materials. He felt like there was a good amount. But if Albedo said they would be running short soon, it must be true. Wasn't that actually really bad? But couldn't they also just buy stuff from the Empire or the Kingdom? They should still have assets for that in the city. Albedo answered Aints' natural question. This is a commercial city doing a fairly good job fulfilling its economic role of supply stockpile. But since Lord Aints took over, almost no merchants have visited from the 3 neighboring countries. For that reason, our supplies are gradually being depleted. Couldn't we just bring some in from somewhere that has some? What if we stole from the Empire or the Kingdom? Sis, that's a bad idea. Because Lord Aints prohibited the use of military force against our 3 neighbors. That was right. He wasn't sure what the future would hold, but until the city was fully under his control, he wouldn't allow anyone to exercise military might. Of course, it would be a different story if someone attacked them first. Then what we do? We don't have to worry. I don't think. Lord Aints will figure something out. Aints wanted to say, so you ray dumping this in my lap now to Mare, but he held himself back. Aura chimed in with an "oh," while she stood beside Mare. But as a run-of-the-mill company employee, there was no way he could come up with a proper plan to assuage the city's economic woes.